to try to undermine the strategic advantage of Syria. I don't think Erdogan will go in by himself. I think that would be too blatant. Mm-hmm. It would lack the support inside of Turkey. It would provoke national movement inside of Syria. So I think that Erdogan is waiting to get some kind of a multilateral cover. Meantime, he's doing everything short of sending the troops in, supplying arms, trainers, professionals that are working with the insurgents, training them. And
so basically, you're saying here that Turkey would even go as far as launching that military strike. But even right now that it hasn't, as you say, that it is, however, working behind the scenes in supporting the insurgents. A lot of analysts have been saying that this involvement will in itself backfire by putting Ankara, for instance, at risk of a new series of violent confrontations with its minority Kurdish population. We know the PKK has been voicing solidarity at times with the Syrian Kurds, and it says it's going to launch violent reprisals if, for instance, Turkish forces target the Kurdish community in Syria. So do you think it will, in the long run, affect Turkey's strategic interests or even its national security?
Well, I think that Turkey, the Erdogan government faces a very formidable internal opposition to an engagement, a military engagement in Syria, because it'll clearly be seen as taking part with fundamentalists and will deepen the ties between a religious party and the state, which is anathema to all those Turks that uphold the Ataturk tradition. And I think that this is a very dangerous game, and it's seen as such by important sectors of the Turkish military, as well as many progressive people in Turkey. So I think the main danger here is that it provokes and deepens internal divisions in Turkey by turning Turkey more and more toward an embrace with fundamentalist Muslims who are really an enemy of a secular state.
OK, I'd like to go now to the role that Turkey is playing also in Iraq. But just before that, let's bring in a comment that's been posted on our Facebook page by one of our viewers. Let's see what our viewers have had to say about this issue, and we'll be back.
It's all about who can control the Middle East and Muslims, money and power. In reality, Turkey is a very big friend of the Zionist state Israel. Previously, it was an open relationship. Now it's a more dangerous relationship because it's more under the table. It plays with the Middle East and Muslims' feelings, and that's what makes it more dangerous. Allah knoweth best.
That view and a lot of similar views like that being posted on our Facebook page today regarding this debate program, and that is how Turkey is prepared to work with Israel or the United States when it comes to its role in the region. But before I come to that aspect, Ms. Petros, we know that Turkey has been signing oil contracts, talking about the oil deals with the Kurdistan regional government in Iraq. Do you think it is deliberately trying to undermine the Maliki government by doing this? I mean, the Iraqi central government has been saying that these deals would deprive it of oil revenues that belong to Iraq as a whole. Some analysts have been saying that while Turkey is doing the deals on one side, on the other side, it is trying to say that we are kind of trying to keep our alliance strong with the Baghdad government as well.
I am not sure about the larger goals of Turkey involving itself in the whole of Iraq. I think its purpose at this time is to penetrate northern Iraq, especially the areas where the U.S. overflights protect the Kurdish entity, which is going for an independent status. I think in that region, Turkey is certainly establishing itself as the dominant economic group, and I think it wants to consolidate its resource influence and control, and it certainly sees this as a jumping-off spot into Central Asia. I think this kind of expansionism is incremental. It's not going to be one jump and take it all. I think they're going to be chipping away at different regions. They're chipping away in Syria. They're chipping away in Iraq. They have wider ambitions throughout this region. And I think this is the strategy. They're gaining influence in Egypt through the Morsi regime. They're trying to expand into Tunisia. But I think these are very step-by-step operations. We can't see this as one big jump from a relatively isolated position into a major kind of colonial or neo-colonial power. I don't see that.
Let's just refer here to a comment that's been made by Mr. Erdogan himself. He's been telling, for instance, CNN Turk in one interview, and I'm quoting him here, that under Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, there is no real unity in Iraq. He's also said earlier that the Maliki administration, for instance, is a minority government. We've seen demonstrators even who are against Maliki carrying his pictures. And Maliki has been saying recently, after these violent bombings in Iraq, that Turkey is working alongside Qatar and Saudi Arabia to undermine his government using sectarian violence as a tool. Now, do you think that is the case? I mean, is Turkey going as far as creating this sectarian violence as Maliki claims?
Well, I think it's a bit of an exaggeration. The CIA was in Iraq way earlier than the Turks. It's possible and politically plausible that the Turks are encouraging these bombings with the Saudis, but I think the larger picture is that the U.S. has been alternating, supporting Shia and supporting Sunnis, depending on the moment in time. When they were invading Iraq, they supported the Shias against Saddam Hussein. Once the Shias gained ascendancy and began to develop a policy of openness to Iran and openness to China and openness to Russia, the U.S. switched sides and began to support the Sunnis and even elements of al-Qaeda that are associated with the Sunnis in the U.S. doesn't have any strategic ties to either group. They have strategic interests, and the interests here are to maximize their influence and control over these formerly independent regimes.
Yeah. Well, I'd just like to remind our viewers that we did have a guest with us